We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. Special thank you to Matthew Berry, already in the chat, already chatting away with the FPL WildCats. So thank you so much, Matthew. And we're all very excited to bring to you the debut episode of FPL WildCats, where we are going to talk all things fantasy football. I've got a great group of people here with me on the FPL WildCats channel, and we are going to, over this World Cup and the following season in FPL, just be a cool place for you all to hang out in and to all just have some fun and chill talking about FPL. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, consider subscribing to the channel, hit that notification bell and follow us on Twitter. It's at FPL WildCats. Join the Jamboree, and I am going to hand you over to our Master of Ceremonies, our hostess with the mostess, FPL Nymphria. Why don't you take it away?
Hey guys, that introduction is great. I think it'd be a really cool place to start with telling you guys how we all become obsessed with our fantasy football, because you know that's what this channel's all about, some fantasy football. We all love it here, we're all a bit obsessed, and I'm sure if you guys are checking it out, you are too. So I guess we'll start with me, seeing as I'm chatting. So I got into FPL because my best friend introduced me. I would only watch Match of the Day for my team. I know, shock horror. And I was getting a bit bored watching it, to be honest, just like waiting for my team to show up. So it was getting a bit kind of, you know, monotonous.
Yeah, you can stop them. Sorry, it's some reason it's gone offline. Great start. Why, I don't know.
It's back now, apparently.
Oh, great. So, me being the guy behind the technical stuff, I've had a great start to this, haven't I? Not 100% sure why it has gone offline, but we are back, so apologies if you missed out. But FPL Nymphria is just going to start again, I believe, from where I signed you in.
No worries. I was just chatting away, telling you guys how I got into fantasy football. Just saying, my best friend introduced me. Getting a bit bored of watching Match of the Day just for my own team, to be honest, and waiting for it to come around, you know. So he suggested, why don't we do an FPL head-to-head, and it'll get you more interested in some of the other teams. I think he's regretting that choice a little bit now, because we did a head-to-head that season and I won. And we decided to invite some others the next season into a mini league, and I also won that as well. And I haven't actually come any worse than second so far, so fingers crossed I'll keep up that high accolade. But I'm definitely more of a mini league player, so when people say, you know what, if you're doing well in OR, you're doing well in mini league, I don't think that's actually always necessarily the case, because if you think about it, you could be an OR of 3 in the world, let's say, if you were that lucky. And if you're watching tonight or whenever, and you are number 3, well done. But, you know, you would have to be number 2 or number 1 in the world to do better in your mini league. So I think it's a very different game, because when you're playing your mini league, for me, you're blocking the people behind you, and you're definitely trying to cover the players that the people in front of you have got, so that you can win the league. So last year, after setting up my channel, doing FPL content on there, I decided to try and play for OR. And as I say, a very different animal, but I've definitely enjoyed the challenge. I've not played any World Cup stuff, so I'm hoping these guys around me definitely know a bit about the World Cup stuff, because I'm a bit, new. I'm a noob. And yeah, so that's pretty much how I got into fantasy football and playing FPL. So what about you, Kurt?
Just got a bit of a bad addiction to football. I like football, I like watching it, I like playing it. But unfortunately, my weight means I can't play it too much because I'm a bit on the big side. So I like playing FPL. I like stats on anything, and it's an addictive game once you get into it. It also frustrates you when things go wrong and your master plan unfolds. But I basically got into it through not too long ago, but properly last 5 or 6 seasons I've done it. Just striving to be better than your mates and just to, in general, succeed and do something you think is managing a team, where in reality it's just picking players that are doing well. But I'm always been a massive fan of football, and for the last couple of years I've been a massive fan of FPL, apart from when it falls down. But that's basically it. There's no big story. I'm just I'm just addicted. I've got addictive personality, and I like stats. I like football, and this is just stats football. So yeah, that's
Brilliant.
basically my story.
Fabulous. And what about you, Brett?
Well, hey guys, my name's Brett, and I'm the creator of FPL TV, which is quite simply a YouTube channel based on Fantasy Premier League, like the rest of the guys here. And firstly, I want to say thanks for having me here, and this is a really exciting project, and it's great to be on a stream with you guys because I've watched all your videos, avidly over the last few years. So it's a pleasure to be streaming with you guys today. I was introduced to FPL in 2012, and it was just through work colleagues, like many of us. I had obviously dabbled with fantasy football in the past on like the Sun, Dream Team, that kind of thing, but it was a lot more hands off. I'm not sure on Dream Team back then, but in 2012, you pick your team at the start of the season. There's maybe a transfer window every international break, and that's kind of it. You kind of leave your team then. And it was only until I got introduced to FPL in work, I realized how competitive it was, when it's all we would talk about in work. And I always remember, like Kurt was saying, I've got a very competitive nature, and I very quickly realized how competitive this FPL can be. And there was a guy, one of my colleagues, who was top of the league toward the start of the season. He was bragging, saying how he was going to win it. And I was so sure I was going to beat this guy. I just knew I was going to... I just thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to let this guy win this league. I haven't played FPL before, but I'm going to do it. So I spent hours and hours and hours on it. And I was boasting around, saying, look, I'm going to win this, overconfident. And I ended up betting him. I said, look, 50 quid says I'll win this league.
Ooh, big spender.
And yeah, it was like 23 at the time. It was like actually quite a lot of money, really, 50 quid.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Yeah.
And I didn't beat him. That's where my obsession came, and I've been doing obviously FPL TV for the last few years. Love making videos, and to see people commenting and subscribing is a great feeling, as it is to be doing this with you guys today. So yeah, that's me. I'm looking forward to talking about World Cup stuff now.
And that's cool. And what about you, Jay? I can't seem to hear Jay. For some reason, is your mic off? So while
Sorry, I'm not used to doing so much at once.
Yeah.
Usually I just switch it on and I go. So
It's all right. It's the first show.
Also,
there was going to be some hitches.
Apologies, Brett. I do believe it cut out halfway through your story for a little bit.
Okay.
For some reason, my internet is playing up a lot today, which is fantastic, of course. How many streams have I done and it's been completely fine? But I will start with my story. It started off when I used to go on holiday with my family, and my dad used to read the Times newspaper. And while I was on the beach, what I'd used to do is I'd get the newspaper and pick the fantasy football team, because we'd always go in July, and so the Times had its own version of the game. Kind of stopped playing, and then my mates challenged me for the World Cup 2014, and I won my mini league, and that kind of reignited the fire. And since then, started doing YouTube videos after a first season of FPL, and my rank has been pretty good every season. So just carried it on, and of course grew my channel, and now we are here doing FPL WildCats. So that is my story, Nim.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. So as you've all heard, we're all FPL obsessives, and we haven't got any at the moment. So sad times. But we do have the World Cup. So I think we probably should, seeing as we put it in the title, chat a little about that now. So we ought to move on to that. So I'd just like to pass over to Jay about how we are planning to play the World Cup fantasy football.
Okay, so basically we were all waiting for the official game to start, but of course McDonald's and FIFA are still working on that. So we've been speaking with Fantasy iTeam. They have an app where you can play fantasy football for the World Cup, and basically we are in talks with them, a bit of behind the scenes stuff about using their images. We won't be for this episode, but we will be using Fantasy iTeam. So if you have got an Apple or Android or whatever they've got their app on, download it and you can play along with us. I'm sure we'll be starting up a mini league which you can all join, and I'm sure we'll share that on at FPL WildCats. Make sure to join the Jamboree. And so that is the game we are talking about and the prices we will be taking from today.
Cool. So if we take a look at our teams, and they're just rough lineups at the moment, I'll pass it over to Kurt first. How are you lining that, Kurt?
Oh, the pressure. I tried to research and I quickly realised there's too much to research and find a good thing. So I've just gone with sort of the FPL basics that I harp on about most of the season. Stuck Neuer in goal because I've seen Germany's group and I thought there's a high chance he'll get 3 clean sheets. Germany will go far and there's potential for more clean sheets there. So Neuer, and if he's fit, he's first team. If he's not fit, makes it a bit interesting, but he should be a nice player to have. Stuck 3 at the back simply because it gets more attackers in. 3 right backs. I got Max Pereira from Uruguay, for whom I'm not exactly sure if he's starting or a bloke called Varela, but we'll soon find out. But I'll be switching them, whoever I find out is starting, because I do feel like Uruguay will have a nice time in this World Cup. I've got a funny feeling they'll be the ones to watch. I've also got Kyle Walker, because wherever he plays, he'll get involved. And I've also got Danny Carvajal, because I feel like he should be Spain's first choice, maybe Cesar Azpilicueta, but I think Carvajal should be first choice. And again, Spain should attack well, should go far, and she should get some clean sheet, potentially even some more points from there. My midfield is a bit interesting. I've gone with a lot of the same player, really. Kazuki Honda's in there for Japan, simply because I needed someone cheap to put in to balance my team out, and I feel like he could be the one to send Japan through if someone is. Don't know if they're going to go through. And then my midfield is made up of just 3 teams I feel like are going to be dominating their groups and going further than that, with Cuadrado, Isco and Philippe Coutinho. All 3 should be in and around the goals. Cuadrado had a pretty good record at the 2014 World Cup. Isco's had a phenomenal record for Spain in this campaign, and also Philippe Coutinho is just a wonderful player to watch. And I've gone with 3 up top. Harry Kane, because, well, I don't know why he's not going to score and we're going to get knocked out, but positive thinking. I've also got Gabriel Jesus, simply because he's been in fine form again, and I don't really want to extend myself to Neymar. And Radamel Falcao, because I feel like Colombia all need a goal scorer. He is that person, and he's got a proven track record at international level. Hopefully he can pull it back out for Colombia this time round.
Brilliant. So that's quite a mixed bag there. Fair play. And a few names there that I don't recognise. So that's good, because I need to be taught things. So I'm always up for learning a bit. And I think we'll pass over to Brett at this point and see how his team is shaping up.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because there are a few players, like Kurt mentioned there, that are sort of in potential injury doubts. And because it's 2 weeks away, big players like Carvajal and Neuer, will they make it or not, And if they do, they'll be great picks, I think. But because it's 2 weeks away, it is quite difficult, isn't it? So I've got a very rough draft. But much like Kurt, it's probably quite questionable. I've actually gone with Pickford in goal. So
interesting.
Yeah, I didn't initially think I would put too many England players in, but their group is very favourable. There's no way around that. They have got a very nice group, and whether or not England do well, I think they're going to do okay, but they're going to be organised. I think, you know, they only conceded like 3 goals in qualifying. Granted, their group was quite favourable there too, but that's still impressive. It's a very impressive record to only concede the 3 goals. And you know, Pickford, I think he'll be number 1. Obviously, if that does change, I can swap him. But he's had a decent season, makes good saves as well. I've gone for Otamendi as my centre back. Argentina, you know, they're in a group with quite a conservative team, quite defensive teams. Iceland, they're going to be organised. Same as Croatia. You know, I think they got a clean sheet in them, Argentina. They only conceded like 16 goals in their qualifying in 18 games. That's less than a goal a game. So decent stats there. And he popped up with a few goals for Man City this season. So, you know, it's been quite prolific this season. So I'm always looking for defenders that can pop up with goals, obviously. I've gone for Joshua Kimmich of Germany as another defender. Quite pleased to see that he's listed as a defender, obviously a wing-back. You know, in the Champions League, he got a few goals. He can chip in again. So I think for Germany, he's a defender that could pop up with a goal or 2 as well. At the moment, I've taken a bit of a punt on Victor Moses because he is listed as a defender on Fantasy iTeam. So on other fantasy games, he's a midfielder, so he's less appealing. But for Victor Moses to be a defender, you know, he's a very attacking player. 11 goals in 29 for Nigeria. You know, that's a very impressive goal scoring record. So if he's a defender, that's a bit of a steal. As a cheap option, I think he could be a good little shout there.
He helped hold up a few of my drafts during the season, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because obviously he's an expensive asset in FPL, isn't he? Like he's 6.5 million or you know, thereabouts.
Rotation central as well, though. That was the only problem.
Yeah, of course. But for Nigeria, he's like the budget option, if you like. So he's got a goal-scoring defender, but he's a budget option for Nigeria rather than an expensive asset for Chelsea. So I think that's a good little opportunity to have him there. Could change, obviously, but that's my defence, just 3 at the back. I got 4 in midfield, so I've gone for Christian Eriksen. You know, obviously plays for Denmark, so not the strongest team, fair enough. But 11 goals in qualifying. He's just the main man there, isn't he? You know, it's good to pick out players where the country just relies on that player. You know, like Sweden is, when they had Ibrahimovic, for example. I know they don't now, but when they did, it's one player that team looked to. And I think Eriksen's that man for Denmark. You know, he'll be on penalties and free kicks, and he just had such a good qualifying campaign. He's had a great season for Spurs. Yeah, I'm quite liking Eriksen as a pick. I've gone for Coutinho, like Kurt. I think Kurt said he's got Coutinho too. It was a toss-up between Coutinho and De Bruyne. So that could switch, because I haven't got any Belgian players as it stands. I just think Belgium haven't done it at a big tournament yet. And they've got some great players, but, you know, if Hazard takes all the plaudits one game and De Bruyne is there, I'm not sure if De Bruyne is going to be really attacking or whether he's going to sit back a bit and, you know, sort of deep lie, play make from deep. They've got a lot of attacking other players, so it could switch to De Bruyne, but Philippe Coutinho, he's come into some good form for Barcelona the last couple of weeks. You know, he can score goals. I think he's a better goal scorer than De Bruyne, maybe. That's arguable, but it's a complete toss-up there. But I'm quite happy with Coutinho. I got Raheem Sterling for England. Again, I'm just going back to their group, and it's such a favourable group. So Raheem Sterling, he's had an amazing season. A lot of chances, could have had a lot more goals if he had put the chances away. It's a bit of a punt, because England, you never know with them, but I think he could be the main man for them this year, especially if he keeps going into the middle of the pitch like he was for Man City. As a cheap option, which I'll expand on a bit later when we go through the groups, but obviously in my research for the groups, I've gone for Farfan.
Oh.
Or
Who's that?
For Jefferson Farfan. He is from Peru.
Yep.
Peruvian. And yeah, I mean, looking at the groups, when I looked at Peru before, because my knowledge of outside the Prem isn't great, but I assumed Peru would be a bit of the whipping boys of the group, but actually they were very impressive in qualifying. They topped Argentina, I believe, in their qualifying. Jefferson Farfan scored a lot of goals. He's like the main man. Granted, he's 33, but he's he's a midfield player that could play as a forward, so I think he's a decent option as a budget player. And he's got like 3 in the last 4 games, gets a lot of goals for Peru. Again, he's like sort of their main man, so even though he's a bit on the older side, he's my sort of punt, if you like. I'll try and bomb through the forwards because I'm aware I'm taking a bit of time here. Up front, I've got Messi. It's they haven't scored many goals in qualifying, but it's sort of avoid Messi at your own peril, really, isn't it?
Messi's Messi.
It's almost like not owning Salah in the FPL this year. It would be quite scary. A lot of hiding behind the sofa not to own him, I think. At least for the group stage. Let's see how he does. There's don't need to explain Messi really. He's just he's surely going to do well. I've gone for Jesus, as has Kurt. Couldn't afford Neymar. I think Jesus, he gets a lot of goals for Brazil. He's been in decent form, consistent for Man City. So I quite fancy him in what is a decent group for Brazil. And then as a, not a cheap option by any means, but I've gone for Timo Werner of Germany. I've just been a big fan of his. I haven't watched loads of him. It's not like I watch, German football a lot, but just impressed with him. And I think, again with Germany's group, I think he could be a good little pick there. So that's my team. That's my team so far. That's the 11 I've got, but it could change. There's still 2 weeks to go.
Brilliant. Well, Jay looks as if he has his concentration face on, like he's doing something at the minute. So I'll quickly run through mine while he's doing that. So I'll start at the front and work my way back, And I've gone 3-4-3 as well. That seems to be roughly where I go with FPL as well. So I've gone Ronaldo, a bit like Messi. He doesn't really need explaining. Portugal, if anyone doesn't know where he's from, he's 8.2 mil in the game, and he's got 81 goals out of 149 caps for his country. So, bit of a mixed bag. But yeah, just I feel like a lot of people might go kind of Messi and players like that. So they'll probably have Ronaldo as well. I mean, there'll be some really brilliant teams out there, I'm sure, but yeah, so I decided to go for Ronaldo, and then I've got Carlos Vela, I believe, for Mexico, 6.3. I can see that Brett is smiling. It's not only because he used to play for Arsenal, I promise. But he's actually doing really well in the MLS at the moment, or I should say last season. 7 goals and 5 assists in 13 games for Los Angeles FC. So he's kind of one of those ones that's a bit of a punt, I guess, up front, because, like I said, a lot of people will be going for the big stars. So
We'll have a punt or two, haven't you? That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. I mean, I don't be doing very well in this, put it that way. So it's a bit of feel out how this goes and see what we can come up with. But just to kind of...
If I can just stop you there for a second and you can continue. Sorry, we cut out.
Okay, no worries. And of course, just to balance things up from Carlos Vela, I will be going with Neymar as my third striker. He's 8.1 in the iTeams app, and he's got 53 goals in 83 caps. So that's, that's pretty good. Yeah, so, you lot with Jesus over there. I'm going Neymar. And then I'm moving to my midfield, and I've gone with James Rodriguez for Colombia, 7.1. I'll discuss him a little bit later in the group stages because I've got that particular group, so I can go into a bit more detail there. And a bit like Brett was saying, I was in a bit of a toss-up about who to put in that midfield place, and I went with KDB, so I went with Kevin De Bruyne.
Who was the toss-up for? Sorry, who was it between?
Well, Coutinho, obviously.
Okay, it was the same dilemma. Okay,
yeah. So that's interesting, I think. But yeah, I know, like you said, he doesn't score that many. I mean, I've got it here, 13 goals in 56 caps. So I'm hoping it will just be kind of the linchpin of my team that kind of slowly, But as we're feeling out this game, I think we get quite a few transfers and stuff. So I'm not too worried.
Yeah.
I do just kind of want to have him there, just in case. But that, like you, could change. And then purely for price and just, again, a bit like Kurt, choosing somebody completely random, I've gone with Paulinho for Brazil. 6.7 in the game, so he's fairly cheap for a midfielder in the game. 12 goals in 48 caps, so not expecting huge amounts there. I'm just kind of hoping having Neymar up front will pull up for those two, not doing quite so well. And then I've got my last midfielder is Mo Salah. Obviously for Egypt, if you guys didn't know, 7.3 mil, 33 goals in 57 caps. Okay, so he got injured in the Champions League and we were all having a bit of a panic about whether he'll make it. But I do have this quote here on my iPad. He said, "It was a very tough night, but I'm a fighter. Despite the odds, I'm confident that I'll be in Russia to make you all proud. Your love and support will give me the strength I need." So I'm going to give him my love and support because he got me through the FPL season. So unless I hear just beforehand that, he's not there or something like that, then I'll leave him in my team. I think I did hear somewhere during the week that Egypt have said he'll be playing. So I think that's a pretty good sign. And then, like Brett, I always go with attack and defence where I can. So I decided to go with Alba for Spain, 6.4. Obviously, the returns aren't going to be brilliant here, but 8 goals and 60 caps, not too bad. Meunier for Belgium, 6.1 in the game, 5 goals and 22 caps. And then Hector for Germany, 5.8, 3 goals and 36 caps. And then lastly, my keeper, I've gone with Hans-Thor Haldorsen. Yeah, pronunciation isn't going to be brilliant. Yeah, I'm feeling quite chuffed myself. I've got as far as I have. So he'll be Hold for now on. A new little Game of Thrones reference there. 5.6. He plays for Iceland. He did pretty well in the Euros, I seem to remember, and I just loved his name. So, yeah, that's my team. And I'll pass over to Jay to tell you about his.
Okay, so first of all, sorry guys if there have been any cuts. There have been a few, but I think the majority of you are getting all the streams, so apologies for that. My internet, as someone said, might be being attacked by birds, which would be quite funny considering I call my subscribers the flock. So anyway, my team, and before I go into it, the reason that there are some players in there is, and I still have to check this is 100% correct, you can make transfers during kind of a period. It's not a game week as such, but the first games in the group, the second games, the third games are all like a separate game week. So you are apparently allowed mid-game week to make a transfer. As soon as one of your players has started, you can transfer him out and bring in another player. So with that in mind, I have looked at some of the players playing earlier with the idea that possibly I could transfer them out for someone else and have 14 players playing instead of 11. So we're starting off in goal with Keylor Navas. I don't know if the game allows for save points. If it doesn't, he will be leaving the side, but he is 5.9 million, a world-class keeper behind a defence that aren't as good, so the save points would be there if you're playing a game that does allow for save points. Probably going to change him though, because I don't think Fantasy Team does that, not that I've seen yet. In defence we're going Kolarov, purely because he's dangerous from set pieces for Serbia. He's at 6 million, probably a little bit too expensive for a Serbian defender though. Carvajal, because I think he's pretty nailed on. 6.2 million, he's the cheapest Spanish defender that looks nailed on, so that is why I'm going with him. Spain only conceding 3 goals in 10 games in qualifying. And then Jimenez from Uruguay, 5.9 is there. I fancy Uruguay to potentially get some clean sheets in that, although I am slightly worried about in that side getting on a bit in years and maybe being a bit slow against a player like Mohamed Salah. Then for midfield, we've got 2 outside bets, some differentials. Jefferson Farfan, Peru, 5.6 million. Hopefully, he is playing up front for Peru. If that is the case, at 5.6 million. Yep, I've got Farfan as well. I'm very hopeful. Apparently, Paulo Guerrero is going to be at the World Cup, though. So if that is the case, he may be moved back a bit, which ideally for me, I don't want, because a 5.6 midfielder playing up front would be pretty good. Yeah, exactly. I think out of position is just as good in World Cup fantasy football as it is in FPL. Then we're going Sisto for Denmark, 6.1 million, as well as another differential. Advanced position with someone like Ericsson potentially setting him up. He's a very fast winger who has got a decent goal scoring record. As far as the other 2 in midfield, we're going Isco for the Spanish midfielder. He looked incredible against Argentina in a friendly. Looks like he could be one of the star players for them in this tournament, and I think Spain will have a good tournament. And Shaqiri, I think, for Switzerland, it's one of those groups where you could potentially see a number of teams going through in the top 2, but I think Switzerland have a good chance, and Shaqiri might want to put himself in the shop window because of the situation with his club.
Is that Shaqiri?
Yes, it's
Shaqiri.
Shaqiri.
Hips don't lie, Shaqiri.
Well, I mean, I've never looked at his hips that much, but hopefully he's going to want to prove himself and get a transfer to a big club. So I'm hoping he does well for Switzerland. And then up front, I don't have Ronaldo or Messi. I worry a little bit about Portugal in this one. Also with Messi, has he done it for Argentina in a major tournament before? So that's why I've kind of overlooked him. I'm looking at Cavani because he's got a good goal scoring record for Uruguay in qualification. 1 goal and 1 assist in the last World Cup. Of course, Uruguay didn't do too great in the last World Cup though. But for club and country, they're doing very well. Griezmann for France. France didn't score many goals in qualifying, but in the Euros, Griezmann got 6 goals and 2 assists. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for there. So that would be good to see from him. And then Andre Silva, 7.5 million, second highest goal scorer for Portugal in qualifying. He scored 9 goals to Ronaldo's 15. So I'm hoping to get, if Portugal do well, some points from him that might counterbalance everyone that has Ronaldo. So that is my team for Fantasy Soccer iTeam World Cup. Okay.
So cool. I think at this point we're going to throw out some questions if there are any.
Okay, we have some comments. We have, first of all,
that'll do.
We've got from Dave Smith, people sleep on Kimmich because he was added kind of late to the Germany squad. We've got from Seb Hodson, Moses is on all set pieces for Nigeria, and he feels like they might be dark horses, so to look at them.
Yeah.
We also have...
It wasn't even
I don't know what he is on the game, to be honest. I've not looked at Nigeria yet because they've not been anyone I've researched on. And then Dave Smith says Nim's got the old lady glasses on, but he says he likes them.
I haven't.
You must have at some point in the stream because he did put it in there. And
I did.
And then as far as questions, so I don't know who wants to take this one, but who do you think will be the Golden Boot winner at the World Cup? I suppose we could go around everyone for this one. There has been a lot of debate in the chat. If we start off with you, Brett, who do you think could be the Golden Boot winner at the World Cup?
It's a tough one, and you're going to come to me first on that.
Apologies.
I think I haven't picked Neymar in my team because of this fitness issue. Now, if Neymar is past fit, it could be Neymar, I feel. Obviously, Griezmann did so well, a couple of years ago in the Euros. Obviously got Messi as well, because like you say, you mentioned how Messi hasn't done it in a big tournament, and obviously they haven't done. I mean, they did get to the final 4 years ago, and he still scored 4 goals there. He wasn't far off the Golden Boot. So I'll just say Neymar. I'll just go for Neymar. If he's past fit, I'll say Neymar. If not, Messi.
Cool. How about you, Kurt?
Just to check, is Golden Boot the one who scores the most or plays the best? Because I know
I
there's
think
two.
it scores the most.
Scores the most. I'm gonna go with a. Oh, I think 4 years ago it was James Rodriguez. I think I'm gonna go with Falcao for Colombia to do it 2-2. I just think you look at Colombia's group and you think there's no real big teams there, and they play first or second, depending if they get through, of Group G, which is England's group. Again, doesn't look too good. Those 4 games there could do it for the rest of the tournament. They've then got a game after that if they get through. I think Colombia, Rodriguez, I don't think he'll do it 2-2. I think he'll play more of an assisting role, hopefully. But I think Falcao definitely will at least get a couple of goals.
Okay,
So
and
Falcao, basically.
yeah, cool. I can't argue with that, to be honest. I think Colombia are pretty well positioned to do quite well in this tournament. And if Rodriguez assists, like I know he can, and he's been playing well for Bayern, then yeah, I could see that happening. Nim, how about your pick for Golden Boot?
Oh gosh, considering I only really know the big names, this one's quite a difficult one to ask. I think Neymar will be in for the running, like Brett said. Maybe Mo, he might be on a bit of a mission after what happened to him in the Champions League and maybe missing out on the Ballon d'Or, possibly. We're not sure yet, but possibly. Yeah, I can't really argue with what the others have said. Is it Lewandowski? Is he a midfielder or a forward?
He's
or am
a
I getting
forward.
confuddled
He's
with
a
somebody
forward.
else? Or is he
I think you've
he's
got
a
the right person
forward?
in mind.
Yeah. Have I? Yeah, I was thinking he might be a bit of an outside, possibly
Yeah,
a bit of an outside shout.
He's in the same group as Colombia, which is favourable. So, it's a question of whether Poland go far enough for him to score enough.
Yeah.
But in the group, he could certainly bang a few in because again, he's the main man there, isn't he? So it's like we said earlier, it's trying to find those players that the teams rely on, and that's why Neymar is so appealing from a fantasy perspective if he's past fit, because again, his goal scoring record for Brazil is incredible, and he's just the main man there, isn't he? But so yeah, Lewandowski could be a good shout if he can bang them in the group. So it really depends on how they do in the first 3 games.
What about you, Jay?
I think my bets would go on if Portugal do well, then Ronaldo.
Yes. What about you, Jay? What do you think?
Yeah, I think if Portugal do well, Ronaldo's definitely in with a shout. Basically, he's, I think, 7 goals away from being the player for Portugal that scores the most in the World Cup. So he may be going for that personal record for himself. I also think you could look at Thomas Müller. 5 goals in the last 2 World Cups, so he might be chasing that golden boot this one. Not sure about his positioning though, so that could be an issue with Thomas Müller, because I know Timo Werner's just recently come in and looked pretty impressive for Germany. So I'd probably look at Müller and Ronaldo for the golden boot. Moving on to other questions.
Yeah.
Go on, Brett, if you've got something to say about that. And then we've got, is Salah worth picking up with his injury prognosis after the Champions League game? That question is from Jeff Holt. Kurt, if you're there, can you answer that one?
Can you say it one more time, Jay? I missed that question.
No worries, mate.
You're breaking up a little bit, Jay.
It probably my internet again. It's been all right for a little bit, but it's really playing up today. It's from Jeff Holt. Is Salah worth picking with his injury prognosis?
I think he's going to type the question, is he?
Yeah, probably. I think he was asking about Mo. Probably, I think. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So, well, I've got him in my team, Jeff. So if that's any help. I don't know what the other guys think, though. What do you think, Kurt?
Salah, it depends. I think Egypt's statement on him was he will be there to play some part in the World Cup. Makes me feel like that first game will involve no Mohamed Salah from the starting lineup. So I'm inclined to say stay away. I think he's a bit too much of a risk unless we hear further from now. Salah's fit enough to start.
Okay, well, I think it might be a good time to move on to the group stages. I don't know what you guys think, so I think it'll be back to Kurt for Group A and B on that one.
Oh, yes. Group A. It's a very interesting group. Obviously, Group A is always the hosts of the tournament in the Euro or the World Cup, so Russia get their spot. Within them is Cavani and Suarez double team with Uruguay, a team I think will do all right. Egypt with Mohamed Salah, and Saudi Arabia, who one of those teams that unfortunately are going to be dubbed taking part. No fault of their own, just they're not too good, and the teams around them are a bit better than them. Uruguay, I think, will go through. They've got to be favourites for the group. And I think if you look at the records of Cavani and Suarez, Cavani this season, 48 appearances, 40 goals and 12 assists. Suarez has got 51 appearances, 31 goals, 18 assists. And, in the back three, Muslera, Godin and Jimenez. So it's sturdy at the front, sturdy at the back. The players in between, there's a bit of a question about. And within that group as well is, Salah's fitness, if he's fit enough to start from the the first game. I do feel like Russia's tournament will begin and end in the group stages if Salah isn't fit to start, because he is unfortunately being targeted by players, mentioning no names, Ramos. I do feel like Russia could go through, but Salah is the important factor about whether Russia go through or Egypt go through in that group.
Yeah.
And for Group B, it's a pretty simple one. You've got Portugal, who won the Euros 2 years ago, have Cristiano Ronaldo, among others, on their team, and Spain, who have such a variety of players that could play. You look at their reserve team, or the team that doesn't start the first game, and most of them, I give you my credit, will probably get into the England team if they're English and walk straight in. But for that, they're clear favourites. And if fantasy-wise, Morocco and Iran are rendered a bit useless for their players, so I wouldn't go near them. Isco, to highlight one though, to make an extra point for this group, Isco has been phenomenal for Spain. He's been played all over the park, all different positions. He's scored in every single position he's played, looks brilliant, had a wonderful time at Real Madrid this season, and I do feel like he is definitely one to watch, hence the reason he's in my team. So, I think there's some big players there. Cavani, Suarez, but most importantly, Isco, I do feel like is one to watch. Done.
Cool. So that moves us on to Brett, who's discussing groups C and D.
Yeah, just to add to what Kurt was saying, it's interesting really, because he's obviously given us a quick rundown of Group A and B, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, shit, I haven't got any of these players in my team, So it does make me question.
Parent advisory on the swear word there.
Sorry about that. I mean, I did look at Uruguay. It's difficult between Suarez and Cavani to pick between them. And like you say, Isco for Spain, he's just gone up a level, hasn't he? The last 2 years, he's just really gone to that next level where he's close to world class, maybe even world class in my opinion. What's interesting about Group A with Egypt and Mohamed Salah, their first game, the opening game for them is against Uruguay, so that's arguably the most difficult game. Maybe they can get that one out of the way. Maybe we might see Salah come off the bench, and then for us, in Dream Team, maybe that's time for us to unleash him there and bring him in against Saudi Arabia and Russia, who are arguably weaker teams. So that'll be interesting to see how much he features in that first game for Egypt. So Group C, we've got France, Peru, Denmark, Australia. It's a tricky one. I mean, like I said before, when I looked at it on paper before I really did any research, and I kind of assumed Peru would be not the whipping boys, but I didn't really know much about them. And having done research now, I actually think Peru are kind of like dark horses in this group. Australia, I love watching the Socceroos. Like, they're always passionate in the World Cup, and you've got Cahill, and he always seems to turn up, doesn't he? So I'm not suggesting to go for any Australia players. Like, I wouldn't personally, but yeah, I can't see them doing too well. But you never know, because they have got a lot of passion behind them. For France have got a great squad, but I struggle to pick. Apart from their forward line, I don't really fancy much of their team. You know, defensive. They got great players, you know, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sure about them. My gut instinct says they'll win that group. But I'm not too sure about them. Obviously, you've got Griezmann and Mbappe. I think Mbappe could be the big player for them. Everyone obviously looks to Griezmann, but Mbappe's had a good season for PSG, and I just rate the guy. You know, rate him very highly. Obviously, Denmark, you've got Christian Eriksen. Like I said earlier, he's in my team. It's a different, you know, it's not an easy group, but I still think he's a good pick, you know, against Australia and Peru as well, potentially. It's funny. Also, Jay, you mentioned Sisto earlier for Denmark, and I didn't know much about Sisto, but I did see him play in their playoff against Ireland, Republic of Ireland. And he looked very dangerous. He looked very dangerous in those games. So Eriksen got all the plaudits. He scored hat-tricks and that kind of thing. But Sisto looked very good as well, actually. So as an outside punt, he could be a little bit of a fun one.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for.
So yeah, Group C's tough, but I think maybe 10 games unbeaten or something. They didn't lose to Argentina in the group. And yeah, Farfan, he's 33. Like I was saying earlier, he's on the older side, but. He's again their main man, and because he's classed as a midfielder on Fantasy I Team, if he plays further forward, plays out of position, then again he could be a good budget option. That's why he makes my team. Group D is an interesting one. It's easy to say for any group because they're all difficult, aren't they? But Argentina, Croatia, Iceland, Nigeria. Argentina,
Ooh.
you know.
Sorry, just doing all Iceland thing.
That's why it's a tough one, isn't it? Because Iceland, you know, they bring the heart, don't they? Iceland bring the passion, the heart.
Hold the door is going to be there in goal. Exactly. Do me proud.
The door's there, literally holding the clean sheets. Yeah, Iceland, you know, they've got a main man in Sigurdsson. You know, so Sigurdsson has missed some of the season injured. Again, it depends if he's fit and playing all the games. If you're going to pick any player from Iceland, it's Sigurdsson, or obviously Hold the Doorson if you want the Hold the Door guy, the goalkeeper. But outfield, you know, Sigurdsson's their only player I would go for. Obviously, you've got Goodmanson for Burnley too. He had a good season for Burnley, but not prolific, not a goal scorer. So Sigurdsson on free kicks, penalties. I think what's interesting about this group is that they're all quite conservative in terms of they're all organised. So Croatia only conceded 4 goals in qualifying, Iceland only conceded 7, and Argentina only 16 in 18 games played. Obviously playing 18 games compared to the 10 that the other teams played. Argentina's tricky. They've got so many attacking options. You know, you've got Dybala, Higuain, Aguero. It's almost that case of who do you pick? You know, so if you're not going Messi, it's a bit of a punt on the rest of them. Is Higuain going to get the goals? Is Dybala going to get them? Is Aguero going to play? And I'm a big fan of Dybala, but it's almost a bit of a gamble, knowing which way to go. And again, they're playing teams that have kept a lot of clean sheets, you know, and organised teams. Croatia organised, Iceland organised. Nigeria are the team I've sort of forgotten about. I have punted on Moses because he's classed as a defender. There's an attacking defender there that could be playing out of position for Nigeria, so he's the only player I'd really look at. You know, they've obviously got Iwobi. He's probably better for Nigeria than he has been for Arsenal. Got a couple of goals, but I wouldn't really go there. Iheanacho with 8 goals and 15 for Nigeria, so an impressive record for Iheanacho. But again, I think you're plucking at straws going for too many Nigeria players. Really, no disrespect to them, but I can't see them doing too much in this group. And it's the same for Croatia in midfield. You know, they've got so many talented midfielders. Modric, Kovacic. You know, there's a lot of players there. I've got more here. Rakitic, Brozovic, even Perisic. You know, a lot of attacking, talented midfield players. Granted, Perisic is more of a forward player, but again, it's who do you pick out of those? You know, it's very hard to pick them. None of them are real goal scorers. Rakitic is on penalties, I think, so he could be a decent shout, but it's an organised group. You know, I'm not sure there's going to be many goals in that group. It's difficult to say, but I think, you know, you're better off looking at Argentina's attacking options. Probably stick with Messi. Maybe go for Otamendi. You know, could pop up with a goal. Yeah, there's a lot of info there. I don't know if that's making sense.
That's cool. That's no
I'm
worry.
struggling really to make sense of it, but they're two difficult groups, but I think they're organised groups. So, you know, Croatia have got a good fullback, Veselko, 4 assists for Atletico this season. Very attacking player, but a bit of a yellow card magnet. So he's a defender I would consider. Organised defence, only 4 conceded in qualification. But I'm not overjoyed by this group. I think it's, apart from Argentina, nothing really
Stands
exciting.
out.
And that's me. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I just I'm getting some feedback, and I know we're dropping out a lot, so I just wanted to say sorry again for that. This is the first time trying anything like this. You probably won't have seen anything like this much on YouTube apart from gaming. So this is the first time this has been tried on anything like this. So please do bear with us. Hopefully this will get better with time.
Awesome.
So on that note, we're going to try and go over to Jay for groups E and F, and hopefully he can talk us through those without breaking up. So fingers crossed.
Well, yeah, I think my computer may be having a meltdown with Skype and OBS and streaming all at the same time. So hopefully you can all hear me. If I do break up and I just cannot be heard, I have on Twitter just sent you guys my notes if anyone wants to go over them. But we'll start off with Group E. I'm basically predicting that Brazil should top this group. I do have questions about Neymar's mentality going into this. He's become a bit of a prima donna at PSG, as far as I can tell. However, I say we because I'm part Brazilian, we have improved our striker situation, I believe, with Jesus and Firmino, whereas last World Cup we were looking at players like Fred. So I definitely think as an attacking force, Brazil will look very good. Other than that, defensively, I probably wouldn't go there just because there's always the chance of something like a 7-1. I really don't want to see that again as a Brazil fan, but it could happen. We've got very attacking fullbacks, and while we do have some good centre-backs, if there's only 2 people back, it's still going to be a very difficult job against any teams with good attacking players. With Costa Rica, did amazingly in the World Cup in 2014. I don't think they'll do the same this year. I think they're actually going to finish bottom of the group. I think they've got a great goalkeeper in Keylor Navas, like I've already said. However, the likes of Joel Campbell, Brian Ruiz haven't looked as good as they were going into World Cup 2014. So I definitely think that could be an issue for Costa Rica. So I think second place is going to be between Switzerland and Serbia. I'm going to go with Switzerland, although I do like Serbia as an outside bet, purely because they've looked very organised, finished on the same amount of points as Portugal in qualification as well. They only lost out on goal difference. So I'm looking at likes of Shaqiri and Seferovic. Probably really butchered that name, but he's their striker, potentially doing well in this one. And as for Serbia, Serbian manager has no goalkeeping experience, coaching experience, as far as I'm aware, before he got this job. So he's not the best manager to be leading a side into the World Cup, but Savic from Calcio A, I believe it's Lazio, has looked amazing this season, and he wasn't picked because the previous manager didn't like him, didn't think he suited their setup. He's now being picked because of a new setup, so I think he could do very well. And Mitrovic, former Newcastle, then he went to Fulham, is very important for Serbia and scores a lot of goals, so he could be an outside pick for Serbia as well. And then if I go to Group F, we have Germany, of course, who I think will do very well this tournament. I think there's so many options in that German side. I do believe an issue there, despite the fact they're going to finish first, is there's so many players that could score points that you may pick the wrong one. I do like the look of Thomas Müller. I do like the look of Timo Werner. I also think their defence is very solid, so any German pick in defence is going to be a good shout. And then again, it's another one of those groups where second place is up for grabs with Mexico, Sweden and South Korea. I think South Korea have had a very bad qualification, so I think they're probably going to finish fourth, although of course you've got Heung-min Son, who could do amazing, and then you've got Mexico and Sweden. I actually fancy Mexico to actually get second, purely because Mexico have a couple of players that I think could do really well. Javier Hernandez is someone who can score goals. He's not done that great at West Ham, but he is a natural goal scorer. Irving Lozano has been incredible in the Dutch league this year, and they generally do qualify through group stages. I've forgotten the exact stat, but I think it's something like 1986. Every World Cup they've been in from 1986, they've got through the group stages. So I'm looking at Mexico to do that again. Sweden don't have Zlatan anymore. Marcus Berg apparently has been very good for them in his place. And then I do believe there is another player who the name has just completely escaped from me, who plays in the Bundesliga, who's an attacking midfielder who can or has been very good in the Bundesliga apparently, and has become a star in it this year, who could do well. But for some reason,
Forsberg.
That's the one. Thank you, Kurt. I didn't write his name down. I've literally got the note here saying attacking midfielder looks very promising from the Bundesliga. I'm like, why wouldn't I put his name down? Thank you for that, Kurt.
Who's that?
It's almost like you have my notes. But yeah, I think Germany, Mexico, Sweden and South Korea will be the way that one finishes. And hopefully all of that got to you guys, because I am aware that right now it's saying my stream is healthy, but it's going on and off and all over the place. So definitely have to look into that for the next stream. Anyway, that is my groups. So Nim, how about yours?
Yeah, cool. So I've got groups G and H, obviously, to round it up. And as I say, World Cup eludes me a little bit, so bear with me. As for Group G, I'm thinking this one probably should be between Belgium and England. Don't know if you guys agree with me on that one. Kurt's shaking his head. Go on, Kurt.
Not England.
Not England.
Not England.
Well, you know, there are two Welsh people here, so we're trying to be diplomatic. So yeah, okay, that was from an Englishman, so I'll leave that with you guys. But the standout players to watch from the group are mostly from Belgium, from what I can gather anyway. Lukaku always does well for his country. 30 goals out of 63 appearances. Obviously, if you manage to stick with him in the FPL season, he does do really well for Belgium. You could consider Hazard, 20 goals out of 81 appearances for Belgium, and 6 goals and 5 assists of that has been in this campaign alone. So he obviously, just prefers playing for Belgium. Interestingly, you could consider Fellaini. Tends to get a lot of time, and he can sneak a ball. If you were thinking somebody really cheap and out there in differential, 16 out of 78 games for country. But also in the group, you can consider Sterling. And of course, if you weren't trolled enough by him during the FPL season, you can consider Kane. So, that's up to you whether you've had enough trolling for a whole year.
It's on corners again, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. For Panama, you might want to keep your eyes open for a defender called Torres. He's done pretty well. And forward Perez. They both look pretty good stats. As for Tunisia, it's a lovely country. I've been there, but maybe you might want to avoid it for fancy football assets. Just saying. Somebody might emerge and surprise us, in which case I will apologise. But yeah, no, stunning country. But I couldn't seem to find much on where we should put our money. Put it that way. Moving on to Group H. I'm thinking the two teams that should make it through here are Poland and Colombia. Don't know if you guys agree with me there. Standouts in this group, just something a bit different. You could always consider Yoshida. Obviously, he plays for Southampton, comes from Japan. Defender, obviously, 10 goals out of 81 appearances. Pretty good for a defender. Mane for Senegal. He's classed as a forward in this game, so 14 out of 51. Not brilliant, but there's another option there for you guys. And from my team, he's in my team, James Rodriguez at Colombia, forward. He's got 21 out of 62. He was the Golden Boot winner at Brazil in 2014, I believe. So, I think he plays for Bayern Munich now, so got good pedigree. He should.
For sure. A lot of amazing goals, wasn't it, 4 years ago as well? Absolute screamers, a lot of them.
Yeah, and I knew I recognised the name from somewhere. I've got him down here, Lewandowski for Poland, 52 goals out of 93 appearances. So, there are just some names there to consider from G and H. And I think that brings it to a good time to throw it out to some more questions and involve the FPL Jamboree.
Yeah, okay, so again, really hoping I'm still with you guys. We do have a question from Siraj, although you did just cover it, Nim. Why no one has looked at Lukaku, who also is a top player to have in your squads, and also what about Mbappe, if anyone wants to take that?
Lukaku, because if anyone can remember his nickname from FPL, that's why I haven't considered him.
Blankaku.
Haven't heard the first one there before, but Blankaku, yeah.
You haven't used Big Rom before?
Oh, Big Rom. Oh, that sort of cut out. I wonder what you were saying. Mbappe, they've got too many strikers. He's pushed out wide, and I haven't seen what he's listed as. I'm assuming it's a striker, so it's probably why I haven't looked at him. If he's a midfielder, then I've probably missed something. I just don't. I don't know why. And weirdly, a lot of us, I think all of us have, we've not had any France players, barring like one or two here.
No, I did some research on France, and I just, for all their pedigree in the Premier League, they just did not grab me as well. Yeah, for
they just
their
didn't
teams.
score enough in the groups, like in the qualification. Like for a team with that much talent, you'd expect a lot more goals in that group, and it really didn't get it.
Definitely.
Another question we've got: who's going to be the surprise package dark horses this summer country-wise in the World Cup? And that is from our mod, Migtavius. Hopefully I've said that right.
Yeah, my pod partner, yeah. Brett seemed to have a few dark horses there.
I'll probably put my neck on the line.
Do you think it's the deepest, darkest Peru?
Yeah.
Is Paddington going to come along and score a few goals?
It's funny because you gave me Group C and D to kind of look at and do a bit of research. I'm like obsessed with these teams now. Do you know what I mean? That's why I've ended up with a Nigerian and a Peru player in my team, because I'm getting so like, when you see a player and then you see some stats and you get like drawn to them. So yeah, Peru. It's not an easy run for them. I think they could get out of that group. I think they could finish second if France win their group. But, if they do finish second, then they're likely going to face Argentina then in the knockout. So I can't see Peru going any further than that, really. But because I spent so much time researching them, I do think they are dark horses for their group. I think Peru could be a tough team to play.
I mean, I quite like Serbia. I know they qualified quite well. Their group wasn't too difficult. They replaced their manager because they wanted to be less defensive, which worries me a little bit, because I think that kind of tactic may benefit them in the World Cup, being quite defensively sound. But they have some great players there, so I would be interested in them.
Yeah, maybe Iceland, just because of how well they did at the Euros. You could maybe not shout them out, but
yeah, I think obviously Iceland were in Group D that I researched, and again, my knowledge outside of the FPL wasn't great until doing a bit more research. But it turns out Iceland actually beat Croatia to the top of their qualifying group, which I thought was very impressive. You know, obviously that takes a lot of consistency. You know, it shows that their Euro, efforts weren't a fluke at all. They're obviously a very confident team. I think they're the lowest populated team to ever qualify for a World Cup now this year. You know, they're going to come with no fear. That's for sure. The Iceland team, they're going to come with absolutely no fear. They've got nothing to lose. And they, like I said, they topped Croatia in qualifying. They could top them again. They could finish second in that group. They could.
Yeah. Kurt, who do you think is the dark horse?
I think I've slightly covered it. I think if you look at Uruguay, they've got a group they can get through. The only problem is they'll most likely face Portugal or Spain. You'd expect them to have Portugal they could do well against if they top the group. You expect Portugal to come second below Spain, but I just don't think you can write off Colombia. I think they'll top their group. They should beat their group with the players they have. Looking at the Belgium squads, knowing, unfortunately, how we do, Colombia could beat either of them, and even Panama or Tunisia. I think they've wiped the floor with them, and they can go on from strength to strength there. They've got the sort of the solidarity to go through the tournament. Like they did at the World Cup 4 years ago. No one expected them to do it, and they did it. I think they can go again and give it a good run again this time.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Cool, and we just got some comments as well, which I thought might be worth reading out. We've got Jeff Holt saying, while I was complaining about Virgin Internet, Virgin Internet is never as good once you've used it once, JNO. So I thought that was quite an amusing comment. I thought that might be the comment of the chat so far. And Mictavia said, Nim loses all her Tunisian followers by the dozen due to her comment about not looking at any Tunisians.
It's a beautiful country. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. The cocktails were great, but I'm just not sure about fantasy football.
And that was it from the chat. So thank you guys so much for all the questions and the comments. It's much appreciated.
You guys. Thanks for what.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't get on to Mbappe actually, because the guy mentioned about France, didn't he? And he is one player that I did pick out for France. Like obviously it's Mbappe and Griezmann. Anyone else? There's no one else that's really exciting me about the French squad, because I looked at their midfield and not a lot of them are. I can't see them contributing too much goals wise. You know, maybe Pogba's the most attacking threat, but I'm just not Pogba's biggest fan, I suppose. So Mbappe is a good shout. You know, he's one of these young guns who's almost world class now. He's that talented, probably one of the best young players in the world, if not the best. And you know, the World Cup is always a platform for these young players to have that season, you know, that tournament. You know, and it's like Griezmann had 2 years ago. Now we knew Griezmann was good even 2 years ago, but that was the tournament that all of a sudden it's like, wow, this guy's world class. He's that good. Same with James Rodriguez at the World Cup 4 years ago. We knew he was good before it, but it takes them beyond that, you know. And it could be that tournament for Mbappe.
Yeah. Actually, this might be a good stage just before we wrap everything up, just to say, is there anything else that we want to mention on any of the other people's groups? I know, Jay, you had quite an interesting story on one of the groups.
Well, the thing is, it's changed since I last talked to you about it. It was Paulo Guerrero. He basically is the top goal scorer for Peru. Then he didn't play in the playoffs because he got tested and came up positive for drugs, so he was banned. It was then appealed and it was reduced so that he could play in the World Cup. Then VADA, which is one of the testing commissions, appealed that. It was extended so he couldn't play in the World Cup, and now I think it's been reduced again. So he can go, but he's not played football for a while because he's been suspended. So it's whether you want to take that risk on someone that really hasn't played much football recently because of his suspension. But he is, or was, their top goal scorer during qualification. So would have been a good look had all of this stuff not come out about his drug test.
Interesting. Why not? You know, just put it out there.
I mean, we could also talk about England. It is asked by Thomas McCarthy, what about England? If anyone does have any deep thoughts.
We mentioned them, have we? To be fair, we haven't. No one's really talked about Kane that much either. And obviously, he's not in my squad. I don't think he's in any of your squads, was he? Or
he's definitely not in mine.
No, yeah, I think it's in Kurt's.
Oh no, he is in Kurt's. Okay. Well, we haven't really talked about England much, have we? And I feel like despite England's struggles in previous tournaments, and say what you will about them, there's no doubt their group, that is on paper. I mean, come on, apart from Belgium, Tunisia and Panama, no disrespect at all, but that's two teams you've got to be beating. Like England will. I'm confident they'll beat those two teams. I know, obviously, I'm not English, so maybe I have more faith in them than even English people do at this point. But I think they'll be all right in that group. I don't think they're going to set the world alight, but I think they're going to beat those two teams, and they play those two teams first. So that's going to give us some information about how they're going to do. So Kane could be a good punt, because it's not like they've got to play Belgium straight away. So you could have Kane in for the first game. Who are England playing first? Is it Panama or Tunisia?
I think it's Tunisia first.
You play Tunisia first, so you could have Kane in for Tunisia. If they don't impress, then you've got the transfer to swap them out for another premium player. You know what I mean? So Kane could more than be a good shout. I've gone for Sterling because I think he'll have a good tournament. But we'll see.
We don't want to go down the whole drugs. After speaking about the drugs, we don't want to go down the whole guns route.
Let's talk about gun crime as well. Why not?
Yeah.
I just think you can't. Sorry, Nim, but you just can't really go wrong with those two games first. Like Tunisia, Panama. They look good on paper. So.
How much is Sterling? I mean, could he be could he be in the Salah spot for that first game? If you were saying Salah's a bit iffy, could you?
Yeah, bear with me. I think he's reasonably priced. So Sterling is 7.1 million on Fantasy iTeam. So you'd call that quite expensive. I think what is Salah? Is he in the 8s or
7.3? So you could put Sterling in that spot for that first game, and then see whether you guys were saying obviously that you're not sure if Mo will turn up. So because the injury thing, see how that first game goes. You could always maybe put him in that slot, and then.
Yeah, why not? Like we said, Egypt have got a very tough first game against Uruguay anyway, regardless of whether Salah plays or not. So let's wait 2 weeks, see if Salah's past fit. If he's not, or he's on the bench, let's just see how he does against Uruguay and how many minutes he plays. And in that sense, we can maybe take a punt on Sterling in the first game against Tunisia, and then maybe do the swap then if we kind of get it wrong.
And Kurt, you had Walker in, was it, in defence as well for England?
Yeah, I just think Walker's dynamic. I think he's incredibly quick. He'll get back and get those sort of, I suppose, I don't know if they do the point-wise the same way, but those bonus point-winning sort of tackles. And he plays on the side of the defence if we play 3 at the back. So
mentioned Leroy Sané, and he's a player that I hadn't considered until I kind of forgot about him, and then, what a season he's had. Big fan of Sané. Good midfield option for Germany if we think they're going to go far.
I think it's because Germany's their lineup tends to differ depending on the types of teams they're playing. So he doesn't always get a regular start for them. Yeah, sure. That's the only slight worry with him, at least when I looked at him, because
that's a good point.
I think it just depends on how because I also obviously considered Ozil. So I think, it's one of those things. Depends on how they line up, I think. So.
Carlos Vela and then Ozil, is it? You're not picking Arsenal players here.
You'd never guess which team I supported. That's cool. Jay or Kurt, anyone else you'd like to throw into the mix? Or
we've covered just about everything.
I think I would just add about England is I don't think there's anyone in that side that's a world-class playmaker. And I think a lot of sides have a world-class playmaker behind a player like Kane. I don't see that in the England side.
Oh.
But that's it.
But I just feel like we don't have a leader, and that's worrying.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'd be worried for you too. And on that note, I still think you'll get through. But as as Brett was saying, I think maybe as non-English people are slightly more optimistic for you guys than you are. So, on that note, I think we'll call it a day there for our first live stream. I will pass it over Jay to wrap it up. But I did just want to say thanks for all the support for everyone who's watched. It's been something I've been working on for at least a year. And these guys have come on board and really kind of helped helped get it going, got the banner going. There's been a few other people as well that I know that behind the scenes that have definitely helped me get this far. So thank you for that. And again, very sorry about our technical hitches tonight. Hopefully we'll get that sorted by the next stream. And I'll pass you over to Jay to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be straight on the phone to Virgin saying a year worth of streams and nothing's gone as bad as today as far as internet providing. So I will definitely be speaking with Virgin. But Tim said, thank you guys so much for joining the stream today. It's much appreciated. It's a project that, like Nim said, she's been working on for a while and has got some help. And trust me, I've done a lot of stuff on this OBS, and then of course the internet doesn't work. So we will look into it and hopefully improve it. Do check out everyone in this stream. Check out their YouTube channels. We've got Kurtjoy, we've got FPL TV for Brett, we've got Nimfria, FPL Nimfria, and of course mine, FPL Today, and check on Twitter as well. I believe all the links will be in the description down below. And of course, subscribe if you did enjoy what you did see that didn't drop out, and also hit that notification bell for the next time we stream. We are aiming for around the 26th and 27th before the knockout stages, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And also we are playing on Fantasy iTeam. There will be, of course, us sharing that on Twitter and in links in the description, and also when it comes out, the official McDonald's game. So thank you guys so much. That is it from all of us, and hopefully there will be the replay and some clips from this stream as well coming up on the channel, so make sure to look out for that as well. So